Johnny.
You're still afraid.
Stop it now. I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I am Dracula.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
The Thing from Another World. This is the spot where it was first seen. And these are the first people who saw the Thing.
Captain, it was awful. Those hands and those eyes. You've got to do something about it. You've got.
Is it human or inhuman?
Hey, what is going on? Stephen Hendricks here with the Spooky Moon Podcast. Back on. Figured I'd do one more podcast before I go back to work here in a few days, because I enjoyed making the last one. So, I'm all by myself again on this one. And I was scrolling through YouTube tonight, just hanging out, and came across a video called the Friday the 13th, what was it called? Retrospective. And they gave me the idea that I should do a retrospective of the franchise on the podcast. I didn't watch the video, but I just kind of seen that title and it gave me the idea that I wanted to do it, so I'm going to do it. This is a franchise that I love. It's one of my favorite franchises of all time. At certain times, I might say that it's my favorite franchise, but 99% of the time, I'm going to say Halloween is my favorite. But I do love Friday the 13th. I rewatch these movies very, very often, especially in the summertime. And it's just always been one of my favorites ever since I was a little kid. And now that I'm grown and I'm able to own all the movies and watch all the movies, I've just grown to love it even more. So figured I would enjoy doing a retrospective. What we're going to do is just go through each movie of the entire franchise, talking about each one a little bit, looking at some stats, looking at the cast, and just talking about my personal thoughts of the movie and what I like or dislike about the movies. So I think it'll be pretty cool, pretty fun. I like the majority of these movies. I think there's only two that I really don't enjoy, and only one that I hate. So it should be a pretty good one. And I can't wait to talk about some of these movies because they're like some of my favorite horror movies of all time, period. And not just some of my favorite Friday the 13th. So just a general idea of what I'm going to be doing before. I'll go through just before I get into my thoughts of the movie. I'll go through who directed it, the writers, budget and box office, if I can find them, and stuff like that. I started writing down for some reason. I don't know. I had a stupid moment. I was starting to write down all these notes for each movie, and then I realized that I'm literally right at my computer, and I make the podcast right next to my computer, so I could literally just make tabs of each movie and just click through them as I talk about them. So I guess that was just the old soul in me, starting to write all the notes down and make it harder on myself. But so that's what we're going to do. I'm using Google for my sources, Google and IMDb. So I guess take that as you will, for my creds on the notes that I'm gonna go through on each one of these movies. So I guess without further ado, let's start off. Starting off with the classic Friday the 13th, 1980. So like I said, this movie came out in 1980, May 9th to be exact. It was directed by Sean S. Cunningham, and the writers on this movie, let's look over here. I'll get the stats out of the way before I start talking about my thoughts. So directed by Sean S. Cunningham, the writers are Victor Miller and Ron Kurz. I think Victor Miller is the writer on the majority of these movies, I think. He's at least a contributing writer on the majority of them. I seen his name a lot as I was going through them. Stars Betsy Palmer, Adrian King, Kevin Bacon, obviously. The budget for this movie was roughly $550,000, and the box office was gigantic, coming in at just about $60 million. So one of the top grossing horror movies of all time, and that's why it's the classic that it is today. Made for scraps and brought in millions. Shottis Cunningham very much so benefited off this movie. Which is why I'm surprised he didn't go on to make more iconic films. I mean, I understand he only had to make this movie and he was completely fine for the rest of his life, but I'm just surprised he didn't get a lot of jobs. And I watched the extras on this movie. I had the Scream Factory box set of Friday the 13th, and it came with a bunch of interviews and director commentaries and stuff, and he talks about how well Friday the 13th did when it came out, and how surprised he was that the phone just never rang afterwards. He never got any jobs, even after Friday the 13th blew up. So I thought that was weird. And yeah, so Friday the 13th, this is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I absolutely love Friday the 13th, the original. It's something about just the vibes. I say that a lot when I talk about movies, especially my favorites and the old movies, but the vibes of this movie is just so right for me. It's just my type of slasher movie, my type of horror movie. It's something about the summer vibe. It's sunny. I love the day scenes in this movie. Like, the day scenes of this movie are my favorite scenes. Something about the opening scene of what's that character's name? It's the cook. I think I have it wrote down on here. Annie, played by Robbie Morgan. Something about that opening scene of her walking down the sidewalk on her way to that little podunk bar or barbecue and grill gas station thing. It just sets off the tone for this movie so perfect, and it instantly gets me in that vibe that I'm talking about. And I have a hard time explaining it, but I guess for any of you out there that gets that same vibe and knows what I'm talking about, you guys understand. But just that summer vibe, and also it's also effective whenever Kevin Bacon and his buddies are driving up in the truck in that opening scene. The music is hokey as hell, but just that scene of the truck driving up the street on their way to Camp Crystal Lake, that scene does it for me too. It just sets off that perfect summer tone vibe, and I don't know, there's something about it that I just love. And this movie is just completely classic. I mean, besides all that, you have the kills, which were revolutionary for horror movies. You got, what's his name? I'm blanking right now. I'm gonna have to look up his name. Tom Savini. I don't know why I couldn't remember his name. Tom Savini doing an amazing job on the special effects in this movie. And I mean, it just shows this movie just blew down the doors for 80s slashers back in the day. And we got to talk about these characters, because a lot of people do not like the original Friday the 13th characters, and I guess I can understand it. I can understand why they don't like them. They're bland. To some people, they would think that they're boring, and I really don't have anything to argue about that, but something about those features make me like them. It just feels like that's what Friday the 13th victims should be. I just feel like that's what they should be. I wouldn't want them to be anything else. It's my favorite thing about them is that they're just dumb teenagers that are clueless and stupid. I don't know, something about that works for me. I feel like that's what they should be, like I said. You got Adriana King in here, which plays the final girl, Alice. Robbie Morgan plays Annie, what she's known as the first kill of Friday the 13th, but I've never understood that. They even talked about that in the special features on the Blu-ray disc. And like the behind the scenes, like they had like a whole section of her talking about how she feels being the first kill of Friday the 13th. And I never understood that because I thought Willie Adams as Barry was the first kill of Friday the 13th. The dude in the yellow shirt at the very beginning opening scene, him and the girl, Deborah S. Hayes plays Claudette. They go up the stairs to have a little fun and they get killed. I mean, they're the first kills. She's the third kill, if anything. And if you really want to get technical, she's the fourth kill because they talk about Jason drowning. So I never understood that, but you got her. You got Laurie Bartram as Brenda. Harry Crosby as Bill. You got Marcy in there, played by Gianna Taylor. Kevin Bacon, obviously, is Jack. Very weird to see him. I think this is his first movie, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely wouldn't have guessed that he would become the star that he is, just based on that movie. You got to talk about Crazy Ralph, played by Walt Gorney, played masterfully. One of my favorite characters in the entire franchise. I love Crazy Ralph. He also sets off that tone that I love about Friday the 13th. So, the combination of these characters, I love it. I love all these characters. It's just everything that everyone else hates about these characters are the reason that I love these characters. So I guess I should just be appreciative of that I can enjoy that. So it's more enjoyment for me, I guess. So other than that, I love this movie. I love the pace of this movie. Like I said, I love the kills. I love the twist ending at the end. My first time watching this as a kid, that twist ending really shocked me. But I mean, obviously I was a little kid, and now that I'm older and I watched it, I understand that it was kind of a horribly done whodunit type movie, and there was just no way you could guess that it was going to be Jason's mom, Pamela Voorhees, because the first time you see her is when she's revealed as the killer. So it shocked me as a kid. As a grown-up, I understand that it had no reason to shock me because I didn't even know who she was until the final scene. So, or to the final act rather. So, even with that little mistake that they made, I love this movie, and I love Pamela Voorhees as the killer. I think that that's genius, and I am glad that Jason obviously shows up after this movie, but as this first movie, I think it works really well for me. A lot of people don't like it because Jason's not in it. That doesn't bother me at all. I love it. I love Pamela as the killer. So, oh, I don't know if you guys heard that, but I accidentally hit my headset on something. Yeah, I love this movie. It's just a simple slasher. I mean, a lot of people will tell you that it's boring. I mean, I don't know why I'm talking about this like you haven't seen Friday the 13th, but a lot of people say that this movie is boring. I never understood that. I've rewatched it multiple times, and I am never bored when I watch it, and I've never got tired of it. I will rewatch it every summer, and every time I'm in the mood for it. I don't know. There's not much more I can say about this movie. I absolutely love this movie. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time, and that's all I have to say about 1980s Friday the 13th. Alright, moving right along to Friday the 13th Part 2. Released in 1981. Specifically, May 1st, 1981. And that is a pretty cool release date because my birthday is May 2nd, so I just learned that just now, so that's pretty cool. Directed by Steve Miner, which was the producer, I believe, on the first one, and from what I understand of the extras that I watched, Sean Cunningham kind of wanted to move on from Friday the 13th. He didn't want to do another movie that he just got done making. He wanted to move on to other things. He kind of didn't want to associate his name with only horror movies. He wanted to prove that he can do other movies as well. So he gave Steve Miner the permission to make Friday the 13th Part 2 if he would direct it. And then Steve Miner produced it. Steve Miner directed it and Sean S. Cunningham produced it. So, from what I understand, that's how it went down. And I think Steve Miner did an excellent job. I actually think it's a step up on the directing. As much as I love the original Friday the 13th, and I think that it is shot beautifully, I do think that Friday the 13th Part 2 is a step up in the directing. I think Steve Miner, I don't know if he had a little bit more experience, but you could tell that he knew a little bit more of what he was doing behind the camera and just the cinematography in general and how to cut scenes together and how to shoot scenes and stuff like that. Just a little bit better, a little bit of an upgrade. So the writers on this film was Ron Kurz, Victor Miller, and Sean S. Cunningham. So I think the same writers, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so the original was just Victor Miller and Ron Kurz. So Part 2, Sean S. Cunningham gave a little bit of writing into. And the box office and budget of this one. Budget was $1.25 million, roughly. They say in between 1 and 1.25 million. So a little bit more, but still considered a low budget movie. And the box office was very successful at 21.7 million. So under half of what the first one made, but still a major profit. Very well received. And cast of this movie, you got Amy Steele as Jenny, which is my favorite final girl of the entire franchise. Love her. You have John Fury as Paul Holt. Adriana King, they got her listed here. She's at the beginning only, and then she gets killed, obviously. Let's see here. You got Marta Kober as Sandra. Jason Voorhees is played by Warrington. This is the debut of Jason Voorhees. Got Kristen Baker as Terry, which is kind of like the hot girl of the group for this movie. You got Bill Randolph as Jeff, which is supposed to be the adult, but he looks like he's like the same age as everyone else in this movie. It's kind of weird. You got Russell Todd plays Scott. Tom McBride plays Mark, which is one of my favorite characters. And definitely one of my favorite kills of the whole franchise. Lauren Marie Taylor as Vicky. You got Walt Gorney back in this one as Crazy Ralph, which I love. And I loved him in this one as well. Stuart Charno as like the prankster. He plays Ted. So this is another cast of members that I really like. And a lot of people they're a little bit warmer on this group, but they still have like the same complaints that they're dull and just stupid and stuff. Again, I love that, so I love this cast of characters. Maybe even a little bit more than the first one. I don't know, it's pretty rough. If you guys watch my ranking that I did a while back of the Friday the 13th movies, you know that Friday the 13th Part 2 and the original Friday the 13th is pretty much tied for me as my favorite. I mean, it really came down to I can't choose. I mean, I did rank them, and I gave them their spots, but if I'm being real, they're tied. I mean, I literally can't choose. They're my favorite slashers of all time. Some of my favorite slashers of all time. So I do love this movie. A lot of the same reasons as the first one. This movie has great vibes for me. Has that awesome summertime vibe that I love. Again, with the opening of this movie, not the very opening, when Adriana gets killed, I can give her take on that scene. I don't know why it's needed. I don't know really why. I don't know. It's just a weird scene for me. When she finds Pamela's head in the fridge and then she gets stabbed through the head. Cool kill, but I just don't know why it's needed. But like, you got the big black jacked up truck drove by, what's his name? What's that? Do they have him? Is it Tom Shea? I don't think they have him listed. That's weird. Oh no, it is Bill Randolph. That's him right there. Jeff. Got the character of Jeff. He has this big black truck that he's driving at the beginning with his girlfriend. Sandra, is it Sandra? They don't have her on this list for some reason, but it's either her or Jill Voight. But him and his girlfriend are driving this truck in the summertime. It's sunny, and it puts me right into those Friday the 13th vibes. And I'm actually watching this movie, Friday the 13th Part 2, behind me. I just got it on, set the vibes right for this podcast episode. But a lot of the same reasons. Love the vibes of this movie. The kills are pretty good. Not as memorable as the first movie, but still very good kills. I'm not sure if the same people came back to do the effects on this movie or not. I want to say they didn't. I want to say it's someone different, but they may have came back. Still pretty good kills. But yeah, I don't really know how to talk about this movie much without sounding like exactly how I talked about the first movie. I guess the third act is a lot different. Oh well, I guess I shouldn't skip the biggest part. That Jason Voorhees makes his debut. Obviously, it makes zero sense of why he's in this movie and why he's alive, but obviously I love it because I love the character, and I'm obviously glad that they went on to make Friday the 13th movies with him in it. The third act of this movie is one of the greatest third acts of the entire franchise. One of the greatest third acts of slasher history, honestly. Amy Steele plays Jenny to perfection and plays the final girl to perfection, using her child psychology skills to trick Jason into thinking that she's mom by wearing her sweater and talking to him. I thought that was just awesome stuff. And just a great third act all around. Jason Voorhees, I do like the look of him in this movie. A lot of people don't. I'm not gonna say it's like the greatest or anything, but I kind of like the goofy sackhead look. I think it just looks classic. I mean, I look at him and I just see classic slasher, classic early 80s slasher. So I guess that's what I like about it. And I just think he looks really cool. And I don't know, just I don't hate him as much as most people do. You'll hear me say that a lot in this episode because I don't hate a lot of things that people hate about this franchise. And I don't know, I guess this franchise was just made for me. It's just my type of slasher movies. I don't know. But yeah, I like Jason in this one. I like that he can jog. I think that's scary. Yeah, I love Friday the 13th Part 2. Not much more I can say about it than that. Let's move on to the next one. Figure I should probably speed this up a little bit. We're already at like 20 minutes and we're only on Part 3 out of, 12 movies or something like that? 11, 12. Alright, Friday the 13th Part 3. This movie came out August 13th, 1982, and it was also directed by Steve Miner. And I should say Friday the 13th Part 3 3D. I heard that it was Steve Miner's idea to do 3D. They obviously were very successful with the first two movies, so they came to Steve Miner to do another one. And he was trying to think of how to spice it up a little bit and try to not make it the same movie. So he came up with the idea of doing 3D, because 3D was this new thing at the time, and it was really big, and he knew that just putting that in the title would bring people back to the seats once again. And I'm noticing something as I'm talking right now, that this has a 7% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Are you serious? That's why I don't pay any attention to Rotten Tomatoes. This is a great slasher. I love this movie. Anyway, that's horrible. Anyway, let's look at the statistics of this movie. The budget for Friday the 13th Part 3 was $2.2 million, and the box office was actually beating Part 2 at 36.7 million. So it definitely put ass in the seats, putting that 3D title on there. And fun fact about this that I know, this was the first movie to finally dethrone E.T. I think it was E.T., yeah. Finally dethroned E.T. from the number 1 spot after like a month of #1. So I thought that was a pretty cool fun fact that I heard recently. Let's look at the cast though. You got Dana Kimmel as Chris Higgins. Richard Brooker plays Jason Voorhees, which he just does an awesome job. Obviously, it's the debut of the hockey mask in this one, and I think it looks awesome. And this is like the first portrayal of Jason Voorhees that really portrays the Jason Voorhees that we know and love today. Part 2 is awesome, but the iconic Jason that you think of when somebody says Jason Voorhees was born with Richard Brooker's portrayal. So this is the first real Jason Voorhees movie, if you want to call it that. And we got Catherine Parks as Vera, Larry Zerner as Shelley, everyone's least favorite character in the entire franchise. I don't know about that, but definitely up there in the least favorite. David Cadams as Chuck, which I'm looking at his picture. I don't remember him. Is he like a sheriff or something? You got Sherry, I don't know what I'm saying. Jeffrey Rogers as Andy. You got Tracy Savage as Debbie. Gloria Charles as Fox. You got Nick Savage as Ollie. I don't know how you say that, as he's one of the bikers, which is another big negative for most people, the biker gang. I don't know why. I think they're hilarious. But anyway, Friday the 13th Part 3. I enjoy this one a lot. I still rewatch this one quite often. It still gives me not as much vibes as the first 2 movies, but it still has that vibe that I like about Friday the 13th. The characters are entertaining. As annoying as Shelley is, which I will agree that he's very annoying, you have fun watching him, and you just can't wait for his kill. And he does get a pretty good kill. I wish they would have shown it, but the aftermath alone just shows that it was a pretty good kill, and I thought it was a good gore effect with his throat slashed. But anyway, don't mind this cast of characters. I don't think they're bad at all. The kills are pretty good, especially what's his name? What's that guy's name? I got a Jeffrey Rogers kill as Andy, the character Andy. His kill was absolutely gnarly. I mean, he got freaking demolished. It's the famous kill where he's doing the handstand, he's walking on his hands, and Jason comes up from behind and just axes him right down the middle, and you see the afterwards after a little bit, and he's hanging from the rafters, and it is just gnarly as all hell. Best kill of this movie for sure. Some of the negatives people talk is about how there's a barn in the camp, and let alone that there's a barn in the camp, they keep going back to the barn, and they keep going to the barn and going to the barn. I never minded that because I love barn settings, and as I agree that I guess a barn shouldn't really be on a campground, I can forgive it because I love the barn setting, and I love all the scenes that are in the barn, so it can't be a negative for me. Like I said, you got the biker gang in here. I thought they were funny at the grocery store, and when they come and siphon their gas to burn down the barn, I thought that was all good scenes. They got good kills. The fight scene was pretty funny with Shelley, and well, not really fight scene, but when he runs over their bikes, and I thought that was just a funny scene. Yeah, I enjoy Part 3 for what it is. I don't rewatch it as much, but I still rewatch it. Between this one, Part 2, and Part 1, they're like the 3 Friday the 13th that I usually pick through for having on in the background. Like as I'm cleaning the house or editing videos or something like that, or doing something like this right now, I have Part 2 playing, which part 2, I would have to say, definitely wins for the majority of the picks for like background Friday the 13th. I definitely put part 2 on more than any of them, but I still put part 3 on every once in a while, and I enjoy it. I like part 3. Moving on to the last of the pre-zombie Jason, as most people like to call it. Friday the 13th, the final chapter, came out in 1984, April 13th, 1984. Directed by Joseph Zito, which I never knew. I never put in the effort to look. And I'm not sure what he's known for, so let's take a look. Okay, he's pretty much just known for the final chapter. It says Missing in Action, Invasion USA, and The Prowler. I think The Prowler is the only one that I'm familiar with, and that's like a pretty slasher movie. So pretty much the Friday the 13th final chapter is what he's known for. The writers on this were Victor Miller, Ron Kurz, those are the 2 returning, and then Martin Kitt-Roser. I don't know if I said that right. But those are the writers. Let's see, what is the budget and box office for this one? Budget was $1.8 million. And the box office was $33 million, so still very, very good. So this has a pretty stacked cast to it. It's known for having Crispin Glover in it with his crazy dance. It's fun watching him in there. Like I said in my ranking, he doesn't really feel like a Friday the 13th character, so that kind of just catches me off guard every time I watch it, but still entertaining to watch. You got Corey Feldman in here. One of my favorite actors is Tommy Jarvis, and he plays my favorite portrayal of Tommy Jarvis. This movie is my favorite Tommy Jarvis, even beats out Part 6, which is most people's favorite. I love Corey Feldman. Shout out The Lost Boys, the greatest vampire movie ever made. Anyway, moving on. You got Peter Barton in here as Doug. You got Eric Anderson as Rob. Judy Aronson as Samantha, Kimberly Beck as Trish, Ted White as Jason, which is my favorite Jason in the entire franchise. Love Ted White and love his portrayal. This is one of the scariest Jasons. I'm not going to say the scariest. Save that for the remake, but he's my favorite Jason. I think he looks the best. Lawrence Montesson as Ted, the kind of creep dude. Where are the twins listed? Did they give them names, or did they just call them twins? Twin 1 and 2. I don't think they have them listed. Trish and Samantha, is that the twins? No, I don't think Samantha. Samantha is the dark-headed girl. I don't know. I guess they don't have them listed. You have Joanne Freeman in here as Mrs. Jarvis, which I thought she did a really good job. Really good performance. Barbara Howard as Sarah, she's my Friday the 13th crush. I think she's the best looking girl in the entire franchise. So she's my crush for this series. So pretty stacked cast. I think this is the best cast of the series. Well, of the original 4, I should say. But not my favorite group of kids. I don't like these group of kids as much. I still love them, but this movie, as much as I do like this movie and I think it is a great slasher, this movie does not give me the vibes that I talked about in part 1 and 2 and some of 3. It just doesn't have the vibes that I was talking about in those. But even without having those, this is a very great slasher. Very good kills. Like I said, very, very good Jason. Best portrayal of Jason in my opinion. And it is just a wild ride. The entire movie is a wild ride. Great gore effects. And it's just a all-around fun watch. I like the setting of this one. It's a pretty good setting. Like I said, not as good for me as part 1 and 2 as far as the setting goes. I think they do it a little better. They capture the summer feel better and the camp setting better, for me anyway. A lot of people would disagree, but I don't know, that's what opinions are for. But I still enjoy this one. I like Friday the 13th Final Chapter. I think it has a great ending, a great Jason death, which, spoiler alert, definitely not the death of Jason. But still a very good slasher movie and a great ending. So I still rewatch this one quite often. Not as much, but definitely get in the mood to throw this one in here and there. Moving on to the weird one of the bunch. One of many, I guess. Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. So this one, I don't remember the guy's name, but it's directed by a porn director. Danny Steinman. I just know from watching reviews and stuff like that he was an ex-porn director. And it definitely shows in this movie. The writers are Martin Kitrosser. I guess he came from Part 4 over to this one. David Cohen and Danny Steinman. So he wrote a little bit as well as directed. And this movie's a freaking mess. I have a lot of guilty pleasure with this one. I don't hate this movie. I do think it is fun, and I like the whodunit aspect. It kind of has the whodunit aspect that the original has, but they don't learn from the original's mistake. They kind of do the same thing with the killer reveal. They do show the killer at the beginning of the movie, but it's in a way that you would never in a million years, if you watch this movie for the first time, even if you claim that you're good at guessing who the killer is, I would bet so much money that nobody could guess who the killer is with what they give you in this movie. So that's my big complaint. I let the original one slide because I love that movie. But I don't let this one slide because this movie isn't good enough to be forgiven for that factor, and they should have known by now that of how to do a good whodunit movie. So, other than that, oh, did I say the box office and budget of this one? I don't even know it. Let's look up the budget for this one. The budget was $2.2 million. And the box office was, let's see, $21.9 million. So it was definitely successful. I bet a lot of people were disappointed with how different it was. Okay, so Friday the 13th Part 5. You're coming off of the final chapter, which has you believe that Jason Voorhees is dead. And with what they had to work with, that Jason Voorhees is dead, and what they had to brainstorm on what they could do, they knew that people wanted Jason Voorhees. And I think with what they had, they didn't do a bad job with coming up with the idea of a whodunit and a copycat Jason. He's still wearing basically the same mask. It has the blue hash marks that a lot of people hate. And I love that mask. It's one of my favorite masks in the whole series. I didn't know that people hated that mask as much as they do until I joined a Friday the 13th group on Facebook, like a fan group. And I posted the Friday the 13th Part 5 rehaul mask that I made, and I have that video on this channel, on this YouTube channel if you're listening on YouTube. And a lot of people were talking about how much they hate this mask. So I didn't know that, but anyway, I love this mask, and I love the look of Jason in this one. Well, it's not Jason. I love the look of the killer in this one. And the only big downer on this movie is all of the nudity and sex. It is way too much in this one. I know it's a slasher, and I should expect it, and I shouldn't be a stickler on that, but if you've never seen this one, just watch it, and I promise you, it's way too much. And the wild characters. You have let me look at the cast, because I didn't even look at that. You have, let's see here. I'll probably uncut this podcast. It's just going to be freelance. You're going to hear all the awkward silence. You have, where is she? I have to find her. the crazy lady. Is that here? Carol. Yeah, that's her. Carol Loquettle. I don't know if I said that name right, but she is freaking crazy in this movie, and it pulls me out every single time I watch it. A lot of people have a lot of guilty pleasure with this one, with her character at least, and I don't. I just don't like her character. I think she's super annoying, and it's just ridiculous. This movie has a lot of humor that I hate. I think the beginning is super weird with the chocolate bar guy, chocolate bar kid, whatever you want to call him, gets hacked by the other inmate or whatever you want to call him of this, like, I don't even know, help center or whatever you want to call it. It's just a very weird opening, and you have Tommy Jarvis back in this one, which he is played by, where is he? Is it Richard Young? I think it's Richard Young that plays the little bit grown up Tommy Jarvis. And he doesn't play a bad Tommy Jarvis. Oh wait, no, that's not him. It's Todd Barrett, isn't it? Or Todd Bryant. I don't know. One of those two. They both look kind of like him. I may have got both of them wrong. I don't know. You guys can go after me for that. But it's not a bad Tommy Jarvis. It's just not my favorite. It's kind of a hokey Tommy Jarvis. He's really good at fighting, which is pretty cool. And it makes kind of a little bit of sense. But it's just not my favorite portrayal of him. I like Part 6 better, and I like Corey Feldman better as Tommy Jarvis. And this movie is just weird for me. It doesn't have a lot of rewatchability at all, because it doesn't have a Friday the 13th vibe that I'm looking for in it. But I don't hate the movie like a lot of people do. So, Friday the 13th Part 5, those are my thoughts. Friday the 13th Part 6, a lot of fan favorites. It came out August 1st, 1986, directed by Tom McLoughlin, and had a box office of $19.5 million. It doesn't say the budget on here, but let me go to the IMDb. I might say it on there. No, it doesn't. But anyway, writers on here was the director, Tom McLoughlin, Victor Miller, and Sean S. Cunningham did some writing on this one, which I did not know that, so that's pretty cool. This is just a classic Friday the 13th movie. It's a lot of fan favorites. You got Tom Matthews in here playing Tommy Jarvis, which is my second favorite Tommy Jarvis. I love his Tommy Jarvis. He plays it very, very good. You got Jennifer Cook in here as Megan, which is a great final girl. I love her performance. This is just the definition of a fun Friday the 13th movie. The opening of this movie is my favorite scene of the entire franchise, beating everything that I mentioned previous. The resurrection of Jason Voorhees is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen in horror movies, period. I think it was lit and directed perfectly. The look of Jason is super cool in this movie. One of my favorite looks. A lot of people don't like it because they say he looks like a hardware worker or a construction worker or something like that. And after I heard that and I looked back at it, I can't argue. He kind of does, but I love that look. And I just think he looks really cool. And I love the mask as well. One of my favorite masks. And yeah, this is just a fun Friday the 13th movie. If someone was to ask me or tell me that they're getting into horror movies and they want some recommendations, I would tell them to watch this one. I would give them Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I would give them a little synopsis of what happened before, but honestly, you don't have to watch the previous ones before this because Jason died, and this is kind of like a fresh start. You could literally watch this as a killer that gets dug up and is resurrected from the dead by a lightning bolt. And it works as that. You don't have to know the backstory. It kind of explains the backstory in this one, so you're not completely lost. And yeah, this is just, you got Alice Cooper. No, you don't have Alice Cooper in here. You have him in, is he in a Friday the 13th? You have a song in here. He made a song for this one, Man Behind the Mask. and it plays like his album that came out at the same time that this movie did during this whole movie. So awesome soundtrack, just super rock and roll soundtrack, and this is just a fun Friday the 13th movie. It's balls to the wall the entire time. Lots of kills, lots of gore. Has one of the most gnarly kills when he snaps that guy's backwards. That one makes me cringe every time. And it has a great third act with Tommy Jarvis sinking Jason to the bottom with fire on the lake, and just a very cool, very cool third act. So I love this one. I have a lot of fun with it. It's a very rewatchable Friday the 13th. This is the one that I always watch in October. I think out of all the Friday the 13th, this one feels more like an October one than any of the other ones. So this is more of an October watch for me. So I love Friday the 13th Part 6. Definitely one of my favorites. And that moves us to the first Friday the 13th in this series that I truly just do not like. And that is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. This movie just didn't work for me all around. You basically have Carrie versus Jason, and I don't know who made up that idea, but I don't know, like, why. I just want to ask them why. Why did you come up with telekinesis and Jason and think that that was going to be a good match? I don't know. So this movie came out in 1988, May 13th. It had a budget of $2.8 million, and it had a box office of $19.2 million, so still very, very successful. Directed by John Carl Buechler. And let me go to the IMDb real quick. The writers on this were Daryl Hanney. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Manuel Fidelo and Victor Miller. Yeah, this one, it's just not my type of Friday the 13th. Very boring, I thought. You have a pretty good performance by Lar Park Lincoln as Tina. For what she had, I don't know. She did okay. You have Kane Hodder's debut, which obviously he's iconic for being Jason the most times, and he's iconic for being Jason, and he's everybody's favorite Jason, which I'm saying this right here and now, I do not understand why. I'm not saying he's a bad Jason. I know he's a good Jason, stuck in all the worst movies, but I just don't get how you can look at the Friday the 13th movies that he's in and him be a fan favorite. I guess for the reason I just said, because he's a good Jason stuck in bad movies, but I don't know, that the bad movie factor is just such a big toll for me, and I don't know, he doesn't impress me very much in this movie, for sure. I think, as ironic as it is, my favorite portrayal of him is in Part 8. I think he does the best in Part 8, which is kind of a horrible Friday the 13th movie, but we'll get to that anyway. Yeah, this movie just didn't work. You have Carrie versus Jason, telekinesis girl, loses her dad when she's young, I guess accidentally kills him after her mom and him had a fight, because she is so upset that she uses the telekinesis to break the bridge that he's standing on, or the platform that he's standing on, and he drowns or whatever. Yeah, very weird. She's trying to fit in with these teenagers that come to, or she's in this group or something like that. I can't remember. She's with her psychiatrist. They go on this like getaway because they think it'll help her, and she's trying to fit in with these teenagers, and doesn't work out, obviously. And yeah, she starts having these visions of the kills or something like that, if I remember correctly. Very forgettable movie, but yeah, it didn't work. Third act was kind of cool when she breaks open the mask with her telekinesis and it reveals his face. That was pretty cool stuff, but other than that, kind of a crap Friday the 13th movie, and I just don't enjoy it. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Directed by Rob Heaton. Came out July 28th, 1989. had a budget of $5 million and had a box office of $14.3 million. So definitely on the low bar, but still a successful movie. I mean, it's more than double your budget, so I'd say that's pretty successful. You got Kane Hodder in here as his second appearance as Jason. You got Jensen Daggett as Rennie, which is one of the only watchable parts of this movie. I think she does awesome. You have Scott Reeves as Sean. Peggy Hedden as New York waitress. I don't know why she's fourth on this list, but you got, where's the rock and roll girl? Is that Barbara? Or is it Charlene as Tamara? I can't remember her name, but the rock and roll girl's fun. She has a cool kill. Mostly because I'm a metalhead, but anyway. Yeah, this movie is pretty boring. I have to agree with most fans, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it. I remember watching specifically the kill when he uses the harpoon as like as a knife. He doesn't shoot it, he just stabs with it. And for some reason, I just remember watching that scene as a little kid, and I have a lot of nostalgia for it, so I kind of have a soft spot for this movie. But after rewatch, I definitely have to agree that this movie is dreadfully boring until the third act. I think once they do actually get to Manhattan, it is a pretty decent time, but they take like, what, an hour to get there? Maybe even longer. And they only have like a runtime of 25 minutes in Manhattan. So, I don't know. Just very boring, very weird installment. You have like little kid Jason popping up. Ghost little kid Jason popping up, and I hate that. Then you have Jason melting in the acid or whatever it is at the end of the movie, turning back into the little boy. That was horrible. So just one of the most redeeming factors is whenever he knocks the dude's head off. That's pretty much the only memorable thing. Other than that, very boring Friday the 13th. Not very rewatchable at all, but I have a little bit of nostalgia for it, so it gets points. Moving straight from that is my least favorite Friday the 13th of all time, and the only one that I hate, and that is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Released in 1993, August 13th, 1993. Directed by Adam Marcus, had a budget of $3 million and a box office of $15.9 million. So very successful with a very low budget, but this movie is absolute dog shit. I hate this movie. The writers are Jay Hughley, Adam Marcus, and Dean Lorey. So those are the guys that can blow me one, because this movie is freaking atrocious. I hate it. I hate the direction they went with it. I mean, they literally come up with the shit that Jason Voorhees is a demon worm that can possess people and make them him. And what the heck? I mean, literally Jason Voorhees, the actual portrayal of Jason Voorhees, which looks terrible in this movie, is only in the movie for probably a total of 15 minutes. And the other hour and 35 minutes or whatever is him inside other people. And who came up with that? What kind of person comes up with shit like that? I don't understand it. I hate the characters in this one. They're not enjoyable at all. Not memorable at all. Horrible storyline, horrible everything. Everything about this movie is trash. I don't enjoy a single minute of this movie. You have, let's see, one of the girls that is secretly, or she finds out, is a Voorhees, and they come up with this stupid rule that's never mentioned before in the previous installments, that a Voorhees can kill Jason. Like, it has to be a family member that can kill Jason. And they have to use this special dagger or whatever. Absolutely horrible. I guess the only good thing I can say about this movie is the gore. If you watch the unrated cut, it has pretty decent gore, but I don't know. It's not an enjoyment factor when the gore is happening to something you don't care about or don't enjoy. So, I don't know. I hate this movie. It'll always be my least favorite. And yeah, screw Jason Goes to Hell. I don't even acknowledge it. After that, you have Jason X, releasing in April 26th, 2002. Which I don't know why it said that. I thought it came out in 2001. Doesn't it come out in 2001? I'm going to say April 26, 2001, because I think this is wrong. Directed by James Isaac, had a budget of $14 million and a box office of $17 million, so barely successful. Let's go to the IMDb, look at the writers. Writers for this one was Todd Farmer and Victor Miller. So this is kind of a guilty pleasure for me. Unfortunately, the series went on long enough to where they had to go to space, just like every other horror franchise. And I can get in the mood for this one. It doesn't feel like a Friday the 13th at all. So it's definitely not whenever I get into a Friday the 13th mood. It's whenever I get into a weird B-movie space slasher mood, which I can just watch Alien for that, I guess. But I still get in the kick where I kind of want to check this one out again, here and there. I think I've seen this movie 3 times, maybe. The first time being whenever I bought this Scream Factory set. Second time being when I rewatched the entire franchise with my girlfriend when we first started dating. And then I think I rewatched it one more time after that. Anyway, this one has some pretty fun kills. A decent little entertaining story of these kids that are from the year, I don't even know, like 3029 or something like that. And I don't know, it's pretty funny, pretty entertaining. Definitely can't be in a Friday the 13th mood to watch this one. You have to be in a weird mood. But I don't hate it as much as most people do. This is defaulted to a lot of people's last on the list. And I mean, it's down there for me, but it's definitely not my least favorite. Yeah, just a little enjoyable B-movie space slasher. That's how I look at it. I don't even look at it as a Friday the 13th. I just look at it as a space slasher, which is pretty much what it is. So yeah, that's what I have to say about Jason X. Then we have Freddy vs. Jason, which I probably won't talk about this one too much because, as most people agree, this is more of a Freddy movie for sure. He's kind of running the show and using Jason to come back pretty much. But it does have Jason in it, so we'll talk about it. This movie was released August 13th, 2003, directed by Ronnie Yu. And the writers on this film are Wes Craven, which I did not know that. Freddy's in here, but I didn't know Wes Craven did some writing, so that's pretty cool. Victor Miller and Damian Shannon. So this is a blast of a movie. I really do love this movie. I think it's a lot of fun. Has a lot of great kills, great effects. One of the most cringeworthy kills whenever he folds the bed onto the guy after stabbing him 50 million times. Yeah, gnarly kill. And the fight scene is everything that you came for when you read the title, Freddy vs. Jason. One of the greatest fight scenes ever. We don't have a lot of horror movie fight scenes, I guess you could say, but this one just delivered. The fight scene is one of the most entertaining horror movie scenes that you will ever see, ever, in my opinion. And I love it. I love this movie. I rewatch it quite often, and it's just a blast of a movie. Not much more I can say about it than that. The cast, let's look at it here. Obviously, you have Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. Who plays Jason in this one? Ken Kersinger, which he kind of plays a weird-looking Jason. I don't think he looks bad. I think it's a pretty good-looking Jason. But yeah, I like his portrayal. It's not horrible. A lot of people complain about it because they wonder why they couldn't just get Kane Hodder, which I don't really know the reason to that, but I don't know. I like his portrayal. I don't think it's bad at all. You got Brendan Fletcher. Is that the guy of Supernatural? I think he's in an early Supernatural episode. Isn't he the kid that has psychic powers that is killing everybody because he's going for revenge? Anyway. You have him as Mark Davis. You have Paula Shaw as Pamela Voorhees, which I thought she did amazing in this one. I loved her in this. We got Kyle Labine as Bill, Kelly Rowland as Kia, Catherine Isabel as Gib, Monica Keena as Lori. This is a pretty fun cast. Just basic early 2000 horror characters. They're a lot of fun in my opinion, and I enjoy them. I love the scene at the Halloween, or not, is it a Halloween party or is it just like a party? I think it's a Halloween party in the cornfield, and Jason comes through burning, catching all the corn on fire, slashing people. That's an amazing scene. Awesome stuff. So love Freddy vs. Jason. And then you have the last installment, Friday the 13th 2009 remake. And a lot of people hate this movie, and I do not understand that. This movie is pretty damn good, and it is actually scary. If I had to choose the scariest Friday the 13th, I would definitely say this one. As scary as I think the Part 4 Jason is, I mean, come on. This is the scariest Jason in the entire franchise. Nobody can say otherwise. Anyway, this movie came out February 13th, 2009, which the anniversary was literally 2 days ago. So I rewatched this 2 days ago. So I'm very fresh on it. Directed by Marcus Nispel, which I think directed the remake for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well, which I also love. Watched that tonight, actually. Writers are Victor Miller, Damian Shannon, and Mark Swift. Oh yeah, it does. Okay, so the box office was, wow, 92.7 million, and the, oh wait, no, I'm reading it backwards. The budget was 19 million, and the box office was 92.7 million. So I was about to say, wow, this movie was a huge bust, but no, it was very successful actually. Yeah, I like this movie. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's super scary. It has a great cast. You have Jared Padalecki in here, which I love Supernatural, and I love Jared Padalecki as an actor, so I love him in this one. You have Juliana Gill as Bree, Daniel Panabaker, I don't know if I'm saying that right, as Jenna, which she is awesome in this one. I originally actually watched her in the Flash TV series, so it's kind of funny. That's what I know her from. But yeah, she's awesome in this one. Willa Ford as Chelsea. You got Travis Van Winkle as Trent, which is everybody's least favorite character, because he's an asshole, but that just means he's a good actor because that's what he's supposed to be. You have Aaron Wu in here as Chewie, which is, he's pretty damn funny in this movie. Arlen as Lawrence. I liked his character. He was also very funny. Then you have the scariest Jason of all time, Derek Mears. This is the only shit your pants scary Jason in the entire franchise, and he does awesome as a portrayal. And I love every second of it. So some of the complaints of this movie is that, or one of the complaints is that Jason has tunnels underneath Camp Crystal Lake to get around. And I think that makes sense to me. I mean, for a remake, I can get past that. I mean, he moves around at an insane speed, and he always seems to pop up somewhere. So I think it's a very good explanation for all that. I don't know. It works for me. It doesn't bother me nearly as much as other people. And then you have the complaint that he keeps one girl alive down in his shack, or down in his tunnels or whatever. But he keeps her alive because she looks like his mom. And that makes perfect sense for Jason. I mean, if you watch part 2, then you know that makes perfect sense. And I completely forgot to mention the opening of this movie is one of the best openings ever in horror movie history. Just super balls to the wall. It opens with this group of kids that you think is going to be the main group of kids throughout the entire movie, but they all get killed off in an amazing scene. Just amazing. Just kill after kill after kill after kill after chase after chase. And it is awesome. One of the best openings to a horror movie I've ever seen. And yeah, this movie's a blast. I think if you watched this movie a long time ago and you hated it, I think you should give it another rewatch and think of it as just, I don't know, just a fresh restart of a series and just a good early 2000 slasher, and I think you'll enjoy it more. Yeah, I love this one. I don't rewatch it as much as I do the older ones because, man, I love those older ones. But I still rewatch it. Like I said, I rewatched it a couple days ago on its anniversary. I'm sure I will do that probably every year. Usually watch it at least once every summer because I usually binge the series every summer. But anyways, that's my thoughts on the 2009 remake. And that's my thoughts on the entire Friday the 13th franchise. So this is a longer episode. We're going on an hour now. So I guess that's pretty good time. That's about what I was aiming for. So with that, I will very early announce, that I do plan on reviewing and ranking this franchise, the entire franchise, this summer. Pretty early this summer. I have plans to do the Wrong Turn franchise first. I want that to be like the season opener of summer. So I want to do those first. And I'm talking about my YouTube channel, obviously. I think I figured out how to put these podcasts on Spotify. So for people, if you're listening on Spotify, I'm talking about my YouTube channel, Steven Hendricks. Check it out on YouTube. I do movie reviews and movie-related content. And, yeah, so I plan on reviewing every single movie in this franchise, and then after I've reviewed every one, I will drop my updated ranking of the franchise, because I think it will change a little bit, and I did that ranking, my original ranking, a while back when I didn't really know what I was going to do for YouTube. So I'm going to actually do the official ranking. So I'm pretty excited about that, just an early heads up for this summer, and I'm excited to do it. So this was a lot of fun. I like talking about all these movies with you guys, so let me know what you guys think about it. If you're on Spotify, give me a rating. That'll help me out a lot. And if you enjoyed, anyway, you don't have to give me a rating. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next one.